You're listening to the Grit to Growth podcast. Real talk with real business owners and professionals who built their freedom the hard way and now want more time, money, and impact.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's guest, his name is Chris Van Dusen out of Huntington Beach, California. He is an operator, marketer, investor, and builder who helps scale everything from a CBD brand to craft distilleries, and now leads a growth stage investments as a senior partner at Salico Capital. Chris has a real knack for spotting potential, raising capital, and scaling businesses. And today we're digging into how he turned vision into real-world traction. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. This is going to be great.
Yeah. All right. To kick things off, can you give us a quick snapshot of what you're working at Salico Capital these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined the firm 3.5 years ago. Really, we're a private investment firm. So what does that mean when you kind of break down the finance world, right? We have a venture strategy. We have a private equity strategy. We do real estate as well. Just have a few developments kind of in progress right now in flight. We do private credit, and we have an RIA attached to the firm. And so what we like to do is build these bespoke invitation-only strategies for large family offices, institutions, and high net worth individuals. They're all looking for amazing projects that they want to get involved in. And so for us, we go out and find great opportunities and then match that back to their strategies.
Very cool. You want to give me kind of the story on how you got to Salico?
Absolutely. So as I said, joined 3.5 years ago as a senior partner. I was an operator before. And so I came out to California at the end of 2009. I was in finance. And the company came out for, did a restructure, and I like to say they restructured me out, which was its own thing. So, 75 days into moving to California, I'm looking around going, now what? And so I make the joke, I'm an accidental or forced entrepreneur. Wasn't something I set out to do, but had the opportunity to found or co-found a few companies. The kind of most notable, if you will, is, as you mentioned, the CBD brand. We sold that in 2021 to a public traded company. That company was founded at the beginning of 2017. Co-founded a liquor distillery in 2018, sold it in 21, and then co-founded a beauty care brand in 2017 and sold it in 2019. So I've had 3 exits. I like to always say there's quite a few gravestones along the way you need to kind of crawl over to get to those great successes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was always in the chief revenue officer role, right? So my focus within almost every company that I've been involved in as an operator, right, as someone who's working within the business, was to really help it scale. And so I'd sit in that chief revenue, chief marketing officer role, handle sales, business development, marketing from an executive level. And, it was very fortunate. We were very fortunate to have those exits. Back in 2017, I also met this gentleman by the name of John Garcia. So John was the founder of Salico Capital and became fast friends. They invested in one of the deals. We took full cycle. And we really tried to figure out how we were going to work together. And I had the opportunity to join the firm January 22 as a senior equity partner. And it's been wonderful ever since. And so I really spend my time out finding amazing opportunities, great operators out in the world who are looking for strategic, kind of smart capital to come in and, help alongside them, not only with that capital, but, call it sitting on the board or roll up your sleeves, being an operator with them. And really help, because during that formidable time of kind of early venture, that's where you need the most amount of help.
What are kind of the things that you're looking at when you're vetting out the operators?
Yeah, so I like to call it an art and a science. And the reason I say that is you can sit down and look at the balance sheet. You can sit down and look at their forecasts and what they're endeavoring to do. And even if it's an amazing idea, how does it work today in the world we live in? Are they too early? Are they also ran, right? You're making all these kind of evaluations, if you will, on the opportunity, right? Everyone has the most amazing opportunity. That's why I love entrepreneurs, is they're going to be that, P.T. Barnum and tell you that they are going to change the world. And so part of your job, right, is sitting in the seat I sit is saying, do I believe that this opportunity can do something that is meaningfully disruptive? Do I believe they're going to go into an incumbent space and change it with a kind of an endemic audience? Or do I believe they're going to create something brand new that doesn't exist today? And they've shown that someone actually wants that thing they're creating, right? But then it becomes even more artful in that you're now evaluating the humans. I wish there was a stat I could give you, but if you have co-founders, their relationship is as important as anything else to the success of that underlying company. Do they share the vision? Do they share the culture? Do they share where the company's supposed to go? Are they aligned? And do they understand what seat they sit in within the company? Or are they overlapping?
Does that become pretty apparent like right away when you're talking, or is that something that takes some digging into?
It can. Personally, I like a longer due diligence process than may be necessary when it comes to the human side of it. I want to get to know them more. I mean, from a fiduciary responsibility, we're investing our capital and our investors' capital into these companies, and we want them to succeed, right? To get that return for our investors. But furthermore, I want to understand who they are, right? This kind of EQ side of, do they have the ability to, one, be an entrepreneur? Because if you're a first-time founder, you hear about what it means to be an entrepreneur. You may have some friends who have done it, but if you've never actually gone through and understood the feeling of being out of business, what feels like being out of business tomorrow, and also the best day you've ever had in your life, right, the next day, and back out of business the next day, you don't understand that grit, that resilience, the determination it takes to truly be an entrepreneur. And so for me personally, I like second, third time founders. I know they've been through it. I know they've felt it before, right? They've gone through the storm. And there's this really interesting difference between buffaloes and cows. And you find that in multi-stage entrepreneurs is buffaloes run towards the storm when it's coming and cows run away.
Yeah,
it's proven. That's why they also look very different, but come from the same kind of evolutionary chain. You spend less time in the storm if you run towards it than you do running away from it.
Absolutely.
And what you find is being an entrepreneur is very painful in a lot of ways. And so you're going to run from that pain. It's human nature. And so when you see a buffalo thereabouts out there in the world as an entrepreneur, you know they're going to run towards it. They can weather it, and they're going to get through and be a good steward of what that company vision is.
That's a great
where
analogy.
it comes together.
Yeah, that's great now, especially for most of our listeners are here around South Dakota, Midwest, and we know a thing or two about buffalo and cattle. So that's awesome.
That's amazing.
So on the entrepreneur side, if someone's listening, kind of starting out, wants to sharpen those skills, what should they focus on? You got any tips as far as like the habit or mindset or just anything practical that you recommend?
Yeah, each person's a little different. And there are so many podcasts that talk about this. So, I'm probably amalgamating a bunch of them, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, find and settle in discomfort. It'll only make you better, right? I think there's one quote I heard, which is, just do hard stuff. And I think they use the expletive instead of stuff, right? The more hard things you add to your life, the more hard things you do, the easier things get, right? If you pave and create a life of comfort, of 100% comfort, then the smallest discomfort is mind-blowing in proportion.
Absolutely.
So for me, a little over 9 years ago, I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so if you know anything about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it is a sport which some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail, but the entire time you're living in discomfort. And so I used to make the joke, the day gets just a smidge easier after you have had someone try to do something dire to you for an hour and a half in the morning.
Getting choked out,
exactly.
Armbar, yeah.
Exactly. So it's all perspective.
Much worse could you get after that, right?
It's all perspective. I think it was Joe Rogan who said, as we get further along in our life, and especially socioeconomically, we add comfort, right? Our couches get more comfortable, our house might get a little bigger, our car gets a little nicer. We move from, row 36, seat B to, economy comfort. And so the entirety of our life is geared to adding comfort and removing discomfort.
And it's amazing. I was just talking to my wife about this the other. It's amazing how fast a human can acclimate to that too. You for something you thought you'd never achieve in your life. As soon as she was talking about work hours. She's like, I'd really like to cut down. I like to be around. She's a pharmacist, around 40 to 45. And I was like, yep, I get that. We have a family. But then as soon as it becomes 40, then it's like, man, 35. That sounds pretty good. Like it's
Exactly.
crazy how fast you can acclimate to that.
Yeah, so it's really whatever it is that you choose to do. I'm not advocating everyone do jujitsu. Well, actually, I am advocating everyone should do jujitsu, but that's a different podcast. Find something that challenges you. Find something that causes you discomfort, and discomfort you can control, right? I get up every day and say, I'm going to go elect to do this thing that makes me feel uncomfortable or causes me discomfort. What that'll do over time is you've walked through that storm to go back to the buffalo. You keep walking towards it, and you know what's going to happen. And so then when you start getting the challenges of the life of an entrepreneur, the life of running a business, it's not the little things that are going to take you off track. You'll know how to just chew through those, which allows you that mental capacity and the focus to work on the big things and the big challenges.
Very good. Could you give me a story of one of the biggest challenges you've personally faced in your career? That adversary.
There's many, many. So I can tell you the story of CBD. That was actually a good one. I like to call it, I got a master's degree in parabolic scale. We were a brand new company, beginning of 17. By 2019, we were doing an unbelievable amount of sales in 17 countries, had 120 plus employees. From 6 to 120 in a couple of years is pretty darn fast. We were one of the largest, I think at the time, second largest in the world behind another large brand. And it was a rocket ship. And like the rest of the world, this little thing called COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden you go from, the company was based out of Denver. I was still living here in California and traveling every week out there to run the sales marketing team. And all of a sudden COVID hits, we're all remote. So now we have to learn how to basically work remote very differently, right? And then on top of it, you had an industry, and a lot of them ended up turning out this way, that the idea of discretionary spend became really important. And so we watched the business totally change, seemingly overnight. And so we're trying to manage a business that we've built infrastructure for the next wave of what's happening, which was up and to the right, not down and to the right? From a compression perspective. Yep. So like many entrepreneurs, like many executive teams, we're scrambling to figure out how to manage the business in a way that was unprecedented, right? You've got a global pandemic. Everyone's locked at home. Products locked on shelves. No one's focusing in the same vein as they were around their health and wellness, right?
Yeah.
And so 100%. Things just changed. And they changed not in a way that you saw the zeitgeist shift away to something else. It just changed overnight. And so trying to manage, and I think really good executives in companies, or even really good entrepreneurs, can try to see 6 months, a year ahead, right? From a planning perspective. And you go from managing 6 months ahead to managing day to day, that becomes very challenging.
Oh, yeah. So did you find, besides the business side of it, were you involved in the people side of the COVID transition too?
In what way do you mean?
In the fact, getting people ready to be working remote, and all of that kind of, just a whole life change for them, right?
A whole life change. The good part was the majority of the team was in Denver. I can't comment on whether or not they got together or not during that period. That's not for me to comment on.
Fair enough.
What was great was our team, I would say throughout the company, but also, in the team that I kind of directly and indirectly managed, everyone was really close. And so there was a lot of best practices, but I would say Teams became everyone's best friend because you could at least see them, similar to Zoom or any of the other video calling companies. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I'm sitting in an office here at my house, right? We have other offices around the country, but I'm here at my house. I have an office. I've had an office the better part of my career at the house. But you think about as you're growing up through your career and you get your first kind of entry level or first level job, you're probably in a smaller apartment, let's just say, that doesn't have extra room for you to have a full office set up.
Nope.
And those walls become very small and very confined very quickly when you're not allowed to leave. So
I live that.
a lot of the people side of the business was sure getting them set up a nice, comfortable place to work so you could try to maximize a work output, right, while they're at home. That's important. But I think there was a bigger piece that maybe wasn't talked about as much, which was just checking in and having conversations, because those walls start getting closer and closer and smaller the longer everyone was cooped up. And I think the mental side of that was a real challenge for many.
Yeah, absolutely. I coped with it by getting a dog at the time. So
Yeah,
that was
we did too.
Yep. I'm sure a lot of people did.
Yes.
Well, so you hit on the CBD. You better tell me a little bit about the distillery company. What were
Sure.
you guys doing there?
Yeah, so my wife and I co-founded that with another couple back in 2018. We took a model that was multi-SKU. So most liquor companies, think about your favorite bourbon brand, right? Started as a bourbon brand, one SKU, bourbon. Now they may make different ages, they may make different, whether or not it's a rye or whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, it's kind of this one offering. Well, we took the approach of making vodka, gin, rum. Basically, we made bourbon as well, canned cocktails, spiked seltzers, right? And so we had multiple SKUs, and what that allowed us to do is find buyers at retail that had gaps that they wanted to fill. The other thing was in the liquor business, and it's a little secret, brand is almost more important when it comes to spirits than taste.
I
And
believe it.
so we made an amazing product, but it was always, it has to be as good as, and then have a brand that resonates, which now you're starting to speak my language from a marketing perspective. And so we had unbelievably designed bottles. We had a tasting room, and it used to be kind of the joke. People would buy two, one to drink and one to show off. And so I don't care who you are. That's a great kind of market fit indicator that people want what you have.
So what year was this going on?
Yeah, so that was 2018.
2018. So you mentioned the canned cocktails. That's kind of right around when those started getting big, right? Like that's
Right when they
about
started
perfect
getting big.
timing. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had distribution through the Southwest, which was great, with one of the largest distributors in the country. And we're doing quite well with the canned cocktails and the spiked seltzers. So if you think about distribution, not to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but distribution in spirits specifically requires a 3-tiered system. You have to have a distributor. It becomes onerous to sell, and then your places to sell, you can't sell at gas stations. You can only sell it, where actual full spirits are approved. The spiked seltzers, however, which is to think more like a White Claw instead of a High Noon, you can now sell gas stations and anywhere they sell beer and wine. And so they became, we had both to maximize the distillery, and then we also had the ability to do the spiked seltzers so that we could catch other points of retail. And so you go back to how these are valued is traditionally how many cases you're outputting for sale rather than how profitable you are. The liquor business is an extremely difficult one. And so we looked at it as maximizing output of caseload, which was the strategy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to shift gears on you here a little bit. We're going to go into a rapid fire question round. You don't need to think too hard on them, and give as long or short of answer as you want on them. Let's start out pretty easy. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
You got a go-to pump-up song?
Ooh, I don't. I have an old school rap mix that I listen to when I lift.
Who's on that? Is that like Dr. Dre, like old
It's
school? Or?
all of our greatest hits when I was in high school. That's what I listened to. I wish I was more creative, but it's the best.
No, that I agree. I always say I feel because I listen to old music all the time too, and I always say old music is killing the new music industry because that's all I think people still want to listen to. So very nice. All right, biggest business buzzword you'd like to ban forever?
Ooh, I'm guilty of it, so it's close to home. I think I actually said it earlier in the podcast is bespoke or accretive. Those are my two, and I use them because they're great words. But yeah, everyone starts using those.
Yeah, it's funny when you find something good, you go back to the well on it a lot.
Yes, exactly.
What's your favorite place to travel to?
London.
London. Why London?
There's something about it. You know, I took my first trip to London many years ago with my wife, uh, and we were on our way to Paris and spent a couple nights in London. And I got to tell you, I liked London so much better. And so now I have the unique opportunity to be in London about every other month, and we have an office there. And it's every time I get there, it's one of my favorite places. There's just something
How,
so beautiful about it.
from California, how long does that flight end up being?
It's about 11 hours.
Oh boy.
It's
Yeah,
spicy. It's
that's
spicy.
serious. What's the most underrated skill in business today?
We talked about it earlier, and it's grit. It
Yeah.
really is. It is the follow through. It is the figuring out how to stick with it, whatever the project is. I'm 44. I grew up at a time where I think you used the term voluntold, right?
Yep.
And I love that because that's how my early career was. Yes, I'll do it. I don't want to, but I will do it, right? And we're going to get it done and whatever it takes to get it done. And I think culturally, at least, I've watched a shift of entitlement start creeping in. And sometimes that will erode work ethic.
Yep.
So I think, again, going back to do hard stuff, don't be afraid to do hard things and really figure out what it means to have that grit to get stuff done. It'll only serve you well in your career.
I had one more, but I think that is a perfect jumping off point, especially for a show called Grit to Growth. All right, Chris, before we get done here, if anyone wants to learn more from you or get in contact or just see what's going on with you, where would you send them to?
Yeah. So salicocapital.com, easy. My LinkedIn is Chris M is in Michael Van Dusen, which I think probably in the show notes, the spelling of my name will be up there.
Yep, we'll have it all in there.
Or Instagram's the exact same thing. I'm active on those platforms. Yeah. Or reach out. My email's my first letter C and Van Dusen at salicocapital.com. Love to chat.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And thank you, Chris, for joining. I think the listeners will get a lot out of this one.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
See everyone on the next one.
Know someone with serious grit and a great growth story? Send them our way at grittogrowthpodcast.com/guest.